Here's the thing. YouTube has a blackface problem. That's Tayo. This is Color Mind, a place where I talk about things I've thought about, so maybe you can think about them too. And you read the title, you saw the thumbnail, and if you haven't already gone straight to the comment section to dox my entire identity and reveal my waifu preferences, thank you. Today I want to talk about the complicated issues surrounding bias, both algorithmically and allegorically, and how they contribute to an uncomfortable but pretty objective fact. It is hard to be seen as a dark-skinned creator both on this platform and on any platform. And more importantly, what we as consumers can do about it. Now, the halo effect is academically defined as the moment after you finish and you spread your partner's Hello?
What the fuck are you doing? What are we talking about?
Don't
fumble the bag. And what the fuck are you doing?
Yo. And
You're fumbling the bag. Yeah. So we're gonna move on to Halo, right? We're gonna move on to Halo theory.
Okay. All right. The halo effect is basically a case where the math just don't be mathing, right? Because we think that cute equals good. But in order for any equation to be true, equal has to be equal on both sides, right? So sure, C equals G, but does G equal C? Does good equal cute? And I mean, sure, that'd be nice, but sadly, when I look down at my speaker system, I don't look at it and go, waifu. Twitter calls this pretty privilege, and I know I can already feel what you feel on the other side of the screen. Some people will say that pretty privilege isn't real, but I would counter that by saying it is real. But pretty privilege is a construct, like racism or pigeons. It's not real, but because we pretend it's real, it has very real consequences. And even what I mean by that, I'm not like against pretty privilege or anything like that. I simply recognize that being pretty does make you more confident, but it's because people let you be more confident when you're pretty. Let me tell you about this paper. I was reading this 2001 paper by Maxine Thompson and Verna titled The Blacker the Berry, Gender, Skin Tone, Self-Esteem, and Self-Efficacy that used survey data to examine the way in which gender socially constructs the importance of skin tone and its effect on self-evaluation, self-esteem, and self-efficacy. Thompson and Co. used what I will be referring to here as the triangle that's not a triangle. Thompson and Co. used what I'll call the triangle of the self in order to kind of help visualize how we construct the image of ourselves. Self-evaluation is one of the first and most important components of the self. What we think about ourselves when we first see ourselves in the groggy morning reflection reflects how we see ourselves when we go out into the world, and more importantly, how we see ourselves in the reflection of others. So it goes without saying, I hope, that having a positive body image leads itself to a more positive self-evaluation, a better assessment of who you are. Body image is influenced by a variety of factors like size, shape, and societal ideas because, say it with me, we live in a society. In our society, dark-skinned children are raised to believe that their lighter-skinned brethren are preferred. We see it in our TV programs, in our magazines, in our commercials, in our movies, in our Instagram ads. This plants the idea in our heads at a very early age that to be light-skinned is the key to being popular, to having professional success, or even a desirable marriage. And in turn, this also leads to those of us without light skin privilege to have a more negative self-evaluation, to see ourselves simply because we are not as light as a Zoe Saldana or a Zendaya as being less, simply because there aren't people that look like us that are doing better a lot of the time. In a similar vein, self-esteem is a measure of how good you feel about yourself, how prone you are to liking yourselves and being liked by others. Self-esteem is influenced by both how we feel about those around us and how those around us feel about us. We are constantly gauging how well we're doing in this game of life by grading our actions in the context of the reactions it causes in people we care about how are marginal. Self-evaluation theory assumes that significant others such as parents and other loved ones, friends, will provide affirmation of one's identity by pointing out the similarities such as skin tone in oneself and others. This would explain why personal self-esteem of Black people tend to be just as high as white people, even though obviously we occupy a lower social caste. People are often, but not always, affirmed when they are in homogenous racial groups. However, in the wider world, with its diversity of racists and racist, Society's difference in treatment of certain skin tones creates a dissonant racial environment, often leading to lower self-esteem and becoming a source of negative self-evaluation. Lastly, self-efficacy is basically the belief that one can master situations and control events. It's the amount of agency you feel like you have in the world, how much you feel like you control your own destiny. Think about it on a scale from like incels to Kanye West. People that report having high levels of self-efficacy, even in the face of failure, believe that with a little extra effort or persistence that they can inevitably succeed at anything they attempt, that they can pull themselves up by their own Gucci bootstraps. However, if the face of that failure is structural, see being passed up for a job because the hiring manager saw your LinkedIn photo, or they didn't like how your name sounded, or based on some unchangeable personal characteristic, like having dark skin, one is likely to be discouraged by failure and see their lives as fundamentally having less agency than their peers. And it's because that while it's true that if you persist, eventually you can find success, it's very hard to persist when you feel like cards are stacked up against you, when you feel like not only is the game unfair, but it's unfair specifically due to a thing that you didn't pick at the loading screen. So as we can see from these three concepts of self-evaluation, self-esteem, and self-efficacy, they form a kind of triangular dynamic with themselves, which self-esteem and self-efficacy kind of influencing one's self-evaluation of oneself, and that skin tone can be seen as kind of a filter that can kind of predict in hegemonic society how much of any three in one individual may have. I think this is all summarized very nicely in this quote from the paper where a young woman is describing how her father's attempt to shape her understanding of beauty in our society and where Black women stood in that equation. But listen, I have a confession to make. I am a man, and I watch YouTubers because they're hot. Mina Lay, fashion baddie. Khadijah, auntie baddie. The white guy from Be Smart, Joe Hansen, Dr. Batty. Foreign Man in a Foreign Land, Batman. I think of the halo effect and pretty privilege in general, less as problems and more of just things to be aware of, you know? No one is immune to bias, and a bias that almost, shout out to Ace and A-Real people in the crowd, everyone has is that they like to look and listen to attractive things, including YouTubers, who statistically are the most attractive of all content creators. Tell me I'm pretty. So if you're serving face in your thumbnail and YouTube puts you on my front page, I am gonna be more likely to click it. But it begs the question, how did these specific creators get on my front page in the first place? Well, the algorithm. So the ultimate purpose of the algorithm is to get you to spend more time on YouTube so that YouTube can charge more for ads. The algorithm changes to encourage behavior that gets you to watch more ads and therefore give you a higher probability of purchasing something from said ads, which makes advertisers happy. What the YouTube algorithm prioritizes is both click-through rate and, most importantly, watch time retention. The current logic around this being that if someone is spending a lot of time on your individual video, that is going to encourage them, just by the laws of inertia, to stay on the platform and to consume other content that is similar to what they're watching. This is often the reason that a lot of people will say that YouTube videos are getting longer. So that's the principle of the algorithm, but how exactly does it work? There are two parts to the YouTube model: the candidate generation network and the ranking network. I'm going to try to simplify them as much as possible because most of y'all did not come to learn about AI, but honestly, it's kind of fucking cool, so fuck you. The candidate generation network takes the user's activity history, i.e. like the IDs of the videos being watched, your search history, and other user level demographics, and then outputs a few hundred videos that they think might broadly be applicable to you. Basically just taking like the raw data of what you've watched and what you're searching for and says, okay, you might like this stuff, and kind of gives you a sample of a few hundred, 300, 400 videos to see how right they might be. On the other side, the ranking network takes a richer set of features for each video that you've watched and scores each item from the candidate generation network accordingly. The objective of the ranking network is to maximize expected watch time for any given recommendation. Covington et al., the Google team that programmed this deep neural network, decided to maximize watch time over the probability of a click, which is the click-through rate, due to the common clickbait titles and video problem that we talked about earlier. For example, the candidate generation model may only have access to features like the video embedding and just the straight views. In contrast, the ranking network can take features such as the thumbnail image and the interests of people that are similar to you in order to create a much more accurate scoring. So let me talk about thumbnails real quick. If you spend any time researching how to drive more traffic to your videos, if you're a YouTuber, you know the number one rule is brighter thumbnails. Is the reason you'll often see me use yellow and red as backdrops on my thumbnails, because they tend to pop out more when users are scrolling through their front pages. Turns out it also enables YouTube's algorithm to better identify what's actually in my thumbnail and gives the ranking network a better chance of putting my video higher in some person's candidate generation model. An unintended consequence of this, however, is that the blacker the thumbnail, the photo, or the person, the more at risk they are for being recommended less. Simply because the algorithm may have a harder time pulling information from it and incorrectly deeming the thumbnail as lower quality and giving it a lower ranking priority. And YouTube isn't even the only one with this problem.
So Twitter does offer you options to crop your own image, but if you don't use those, it uses an automatic cropping algorithm.
Wow. Whoa. There it is.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Christoph, it likes you. Okay, let's try the happy one.
Wow. Unbelievable.
It's both times.
What is this?
Oh.
To tell you the truth, this is one reason why I stopped putting my face in thumbnails. YouTube promotes brighter pictures, which is helpful, sure, but it literally makes darker people harder to see. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say the other reason is because, well, I don't see other people that are as dark as me put their face in thumbnails. And that kind of subconsciously or not so subconsciously told me that, you know, maybe they know something I don't, or maybe my fear is something that they know is true. That fear being the fact that I feel like when somebody sees a blackface talking about something, there's just something within them that says, let me go look for something else. Maybe not malicious, maybe not even conscious, but once I took my face out of my thumbnails, the views of my videos went up. And that's all I can tell you.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Both of these biases, the halo effect and algorithmic bias, perpetuated by people in programming and people programming people to promote other places and things, lead to lower click rates, lower views, a lower possibility of being shown to new audiences, which of course then leads to even lower click rates and lower views. It becomes a vicious cycle of a dimmed spotlight, of being left in the dark. So I hope that by the end of this video, we're all in agreement that it's harder for darker skin creators to get clout on this site for a variety of issues. But what are we supposed to do about it? Who is responsible for fixing this? And it's us, I fear. I don't think YouTube is going to fix this. I don't think YouTube cares about fixing it. I don't think YouTube is prepared or like has a plan to fix this to fix this diversity problem, because they don't even collect race or ethnicity data from us users. Like it's not like YouTube is just saying you're gonna go watch white creators. They don't even know whether you're white or not. But obviously the algorithm can tell a little bit, right? I think we all need to go out of our way to find a way to include more diverse creators in our social media diet. I think at the end of the day, whatever you feel about the algorithm will spit out what it thinks you want. So if you take that agency and say, well, I want to make sure that I'm getting less white creators in my suggested, well, what could really help out is by showing YouTube that you do want it, by looking out, doing a little bit of work on the front end of getting more diverse looking creators on your own. I don't know. Hi, so I am Kevin. I'm the person who was forced to, I'm part of the Blackburb team, the guy who edits the videos here. So you can thank me for all of the memes and anime references. And yeah, Tile kind of goes off the rails here for like another 7 minutes trying to find these points, which he inevitably loses. But I think what he's trying to get across is the idea that what we didn't want to do is list off a whole bunch of creators that you guys could go follow for sympathy follows. No, I think what actually
needs to happen, like the change that needs to happen on the inside of basically white consumers, is that you got to go out and find content you actually like by people that don't have white faces. And if you don't know where to start, honestly, kind of interrogate that. Like, why is it that it is so hard in your ecosystem to come across a dark-skinned creator? Could be interesting food for thought. But if you are having trouble, maybe look in the comments down below, because I think I hope people will drop down some of their favorite POC Black creators, and a conversation can kind of start to happen. That's the point that he's trying to make. Let's go back to this clusterfuck of an outro.
Also, make sure that you like. Also, make sure that you brighten that like button. Also, make sure this video is so hard. Also, make sure you brighten that like button and turn that subscribe button a blickety black before you leave. Thank you for watching, and as always, be kind.